Welcome. Thank you for choosing to settle in and share this quiet moment with me. Find a place where you feel at ease. Perhaps let your shoulders soften and allow your breath to find its natural, gentle rhythm. My name is Silas, and it brings me a quiet contentment to travel this way, aboard my moving home, the Wanderer. It's less about reaching destinations quickly and more about experiencing the journey itself, listening closely to the world outside the window, feeling the subtle shifts in light and landscape, and finding stillness in the steady motion. The familiar hum of the wheels has carried me through many different corners of the world. I recall the serene reflections on the waterways of Stockholm, the feeling of gentle sun on my face during quiet walks in Melbourne, and the warm, spice-tinged whispers carried on the air in Marrakesh. Each place leaves a unique trace, a quiet echo that travels with me. Now, that gentle rhythm carries me across the Iberian Plains towards the coast of Portugal, drawing nearer to a city cradled by a wide, gentle river, Porto. I sense the air changing, growing softer, carrying the scent of the nearby Atlantic. In the chapters that follow, we will explore this city together at a slow pace. We will wander along the riverbanks, feeling the presence of the Douro's steady current, and perhaps trace the intricate blue patterns of the azulejo tiles that seem to capture fragments of the sky and sea. We will listen to the sounds of Porto, the distant calls of gulls, the murmur of the river against the stone quays, the soft clink of glasses from a riverside cafe. We might climb the gentle slopes of Gaia, catching the unique sweet scent from the port wine cellars, and find simple warmth in quiet observation, watching the light play upon the colorful facades across the water. This is an invitation simply to slow down with me, to notice the small things, and perhaps find a measure of peace right here in this moment. Let the gentle sounds of the journey and the atmosphere of Porto wash over you. If you find a sense of calm and comfort in sharing these quiet travels, perhaps consider liking this recording or subscribing to the channel so we might continue these journeys together. For now, let us settle back, take a soft breath, and begin our exploration of the gentle Douro of Porto. Chapter 1. Towards the Douro Valley. The world outside the window of the Wanderer begins to soften. The wide, sun-baked plains that accompanied me through much of the Iberian interior slowly give way to something greener, more undulating. Rolling hills rise and fall in gentle succession, their slopes increasingly patterned with the neat, ordered lines of vineyards. Small clusters of houses, topped with familiar terracotta tiles, nestle into the folds of the land, appearing and then receding again as the train follows the contours of the earth. The light, too, seems different here, less harsh, filtered through a finer veil of moisture in the air, hinting at the proximity of the Atlantic. I sit comfortably in my usual armchair, the worn leather familiar beneath my hands. A cup of warm cha, simple black tea, rests on the small table beside me, its steam rising in a thin, ephemeral wisp. My notebook lies open on my lap, the pen resting beside it, unused for now. It feels more important in these moments of transition, simply to watch, to absorb the changing landscape through the wide, clean glass. The rhythm of the train is a constant, soothing presence, the gentle rocking, the steady clickety-clack on the rails, a familiar heartbeat that underscores these quiet hours of observation. Vineyards become more prominent now, climbing steeper slopes and terraced steps, a testament to generations of cultivation. I imagine the hands that have tended these vines year after year, working with the shape of the land. The green is deep, vibrant, punctuated occasionally by the silver flash of olive leaves or the darker form of a cypress tree standing solitary against the sky. There's a sense of timelessness here, a feeling that this landscape has been worked and lived in for centuries, its patterns established long ago. The train slows slightly as it navigates a curve, offering a prolonged view of a small stone chapel perched on a hilltop, overlooking the valley below. A subtle shift occurs in the air, filtering through the slight opening I've left in the window. It carries a new dampness, a coolness that speaks of the ocean not far away, and perhaps the breadth of the wide river we are approaching. The scent of the polished wood and old books within my carriage mingles with this fresher, greener air from outside. It's a peaceful combination, the scent of my traveling home blending with the essence of the place I am moving towards. My thoughts drift, not forming distinct narratives, but simply moving with the landscape, contemplating the idea of rivers as arteries, carrying life and history through the land. We pass through small, sleepy stations, the names painted on simple signs, names I don't recognize but that sound musical in my mind. Sometimes a lone figure waits on the platform, sometimes only the station master, watching the train pass with a quiet, accustomed gaze. These brief glimpses of local life are like small vignettes, offering momentary windows into a world moving at its own gentle pace. I feel no urge to rush, content to be a passenger, carried along by this steady, unhurried momentum. The journey itself is part of the destination. The hillsides grow steeper, the valleys deeper. The Douro River must be close now, carving its path through this terrain towards the sea. I lean slightly closer to the window, anticipating the first glimpse. There's a quiet excitement building within me, the gentle curiosity that always precedes arrival in a new place. What will Porto feel like? What quiet corners will reveal themselves? The questions hang softly in my mind, unanswered for now, adding to the gentle suspense of the approach. My cup of tea has grown cool, but I barely notice. My attention is captured entirely by the unfolding view. The quality of the light continues to change as the afternoon deepens, casting longer shadows across the hillsides, highlighting the textures of stone walls and tiled roofs. The train rounds another bend, and through a gap in the hills, I catch a brief, shimmering glimpse of water wider than any stream, reflecting the soft afternoon sky. It must be the Douro. A quiet sense of arrival settles over me. The steady rhythm of the train continues, unwavering, carrying me closer. The landscape outside is now unmistakably that of the Douro Valley, renowned for its beauty and its connection to the wine that shares its name. I close my eyes for a moment, just listening to the sound of the wheels, feeling the gentle motion. When I open them again, the world outside seems even more vibrant, bathed in the warm glow of the late afternoon sun. Porto is near. The journey's next chapter is about to begin. Chapter 2, Tiles of Sao Bento. The gentle slowing of the train, the subtle shift in its rhythm, signals our arrival. The wanderer glides smoothly alongside the platform, the sounds of the station filtering in muffled announcements in Portuguese, the distant echo of footsteps, a low murmur of voices. I gather my small satchel, the worn leather strap comfortable in my hand, and prepare to disembark. Stepping down onto the solid platform, I instinctively pause, taking a breath, allowing myself a moment to transition from this self-contained world of the train to the embrace of the city. My gaze is immediately drawn upwards and outwards. Sao Bento Station is breathtaking, not in a way that shouts, but in a way that quietly insists on being seen, appreciated. The vast main hall is lined floor to ceiling with enormous panels of azulejo tiles, thousands upon thousands of them, predominantly blue and white, depicting scenes of Portuguese history, rural life, defining moments frozen in glazed ceramic. Sunlight streams through the high arched windows, illuminating the tiles, making the blues gleam and the whites shine. It feels less like a station and more like a magnificent public art gallery. I stand for a few minutes, simply absorbing the spectacle. My usual inclination is to observe quietly from the periphery. And here, amidst the gentle comings and goings of travelers, it feels natural to do so. I trace the lines of a caravel setting sail, follow the figures in a harvest scene, admire the intricate floral borders framing the larger pictures. The sheer scale is impressive, but it's the detail, the artistry in each tile that holds my attention. There's a story being told on these walls, a narrative of a nation woven into the very fabric of this arrival point. The soft echo within the hall adds to the reverent atmosphere. Reluctantly, I turn from the main hall and begin to walk toward the station exit, my footsteps echoing slightly on the worn floor tiles. The energy here is calm. People move with a purpose, but without frantic haste. I notice the details, the wrought ironwork supporting the roof, the curve of the archways, the patina of age on the wooden benches. It's a place that feels both grand and welcoming, functional, yet deeply imbued with history and beauty. Outside, the Porto air greets me mild, slightly humid, carrying a faint scent of the nearby river and perhaps exhaust fumes mingling with something vaguely salty. I have arranged for a simple transfer, a quiet drive to the apartment I've rented, not in the bustling heart of Porto itself, but across the river in Vila Nova de Gaia. The idea of having the river between me and the main city center appeals, offering a degree of separation, a built-in pause. The drive takes us over the impressive Dom Luis I Bridge, its intricate iron structure spanning the wide Douro. Looking down, I get my first proper view of the river, a broad ribbon of water reflecting the sky, and across to the tightly packed, colorful buildings of the Ribeira district climbing the hill. The view from the bridge is captivating. On the Porto side, the houses cascade down the slope towards the water, a jumble of terracotta roofs, pastel facades, and dark, narrow windows. On the Gaia side, where we are heading, the landscape is dominated by the large, imposing names of the port wine lodges, painted on the roofs and walls of warehouses that line the riverbank. The contrast is clear, one side the historic residential heart, the other the domain of the wine trade that has shaped this region for centuries. The river flows between them, a constant unifying presence. We navigate the slightly narrower, steeper streets of Gaia, climbing away from the immediate riverfront. The apartment building is simple, unassuming, blending quietly with its neighbors. The driver helps me with my single bag, a quiet courtesy I appreciate. Inside, the air is cool and still. My host, a friendly woman with warm eyes, shows me to the apartment, explaining the basics in gentle Portuguese, supplemented with gestures. It's a simple transaction, calm and uncomplicated. And then I am alone in the space. It's small but clean and bright. Whitewashed walls reflect the afternoon light pouring in through the main window. The furnishings are simple, functional: a comfortable chair, a small table, a bed tucked into an alcove. But it is the window that draws me. I walk towards it, place my satchel on the floor, and look out. The view is exactly as I had hoped. Across the shimmering expanse of the Douro, the entire panorama of Porto's Ribera waterfront unfolds. A living postcard bathed in the soft, golden light of late afternoon. I can see the bridge, the colorful houses, the boats moored along the quay. A quiet sense of peace settles over me. This will be a good place to rest, to observe, to simply be. Chapter 3. A room with a river view. The apartment in Vila Nova de Gaia feels immediately calming. It's not large, but every element seems chosen for simple comfort rather than display. The walls are a soft, unassuming white, catching the natural light that flows generously through the main window overlooking the river. The floorboards beneath my feet are dark wood, smooth and slightly cool to the touch. There's a small kitchenette tucked neatly along one wall, a simple wooden table with 2 chairs, and a comfortable armchair upholstered in a plain, durable fabric, perfectly positioned to take in the view. I begin to unpack my satchel, performing the familiar ritual slowly, methodically. My notebook and pen find their place on the small table. My camera rests beside them, its lens cap securely on for now. Clothes are folded and placed into the modest wardrobe. Toiletry is arranged in the small, clean bathroom. Each action is deliberate, grounding. Unpacking is a way of settling in, of gently claiming the space as my own for a little while, transforming it from a temporary lodging into a temporary home. The process is quiet, accompanied only by the soft sounds of my movements and the distant, muted hum of the city across the water. The true heart of the apartment, however, is the view. I am drawn back to the window again and again. It frames the scene perfectly. The wide, placid, dual river flowing steadily towards the unseen Atlantic. The iconic twin levels of the Dom Luis I bridge standing sentinel, and the captivating spectacle of Porto's Ribera district rising steeply on the opposite bank. The houses are a tapestry of colors: ochre, pale blue, soft yellow, rose stacked almost impossibly close together, their varied roof lines creating a fascinating silhouette against the sky. Below, along the Caix da Ribera, I can just make out the colorful umbrellas of cafes and the slow movement of people strolling along the promenade. I open the window slightly, letting in the sounds and smells of Gaia and Porto. The air carries the distinct cries of gulls wheeling overhead, their calls sharp and clear. There's the low, intermittent thrum of boat engines on the river, perhaps one of the traditional Rabelo boats now used for tourist cruises or a smaller working vessel. From across the water comes a faint, indistinct murmur of city life traffic, voices, perhaps music blended into a soft background hum. Mingled with these sounds is the subtle, pervasive scent of the river itself, slightly briny, mixed with a damp coolness rising from the water. Standing here, looking out, I feel a sense of peaceful detachment. Being on the Gaia side offers a perspective, a slight remove that allows for quiet observation. It's like watching a beautiful, slow-moving film unfold. The light is constantly changing, shifting the colors and shadows on the Porto hillside. Clouds drift lazily across the sky, their reflections mirrored in the river's surface. Small boats trace fleeting wakes on the water. It's a scene alive with subtle movement, yet possessed of a deep, underlying calm. I feel my own pace begin to slow, aligning with the gentle rhythm of the river below. Later, as dusk begins to settle, the scene transforms again. Lights begin to twinkle on across the river streetlights, casting warm pools of yellow. Lights in windows creating small, intimate squares of brightness within the darkening facades. The ironwork of the bridge becomes illuminated, tracing its elegant arches against the deepening blue of the evening sky. The reflections on the water become brighter, more pronounced, shimmering ribbons of light dancing on the gentle current. The sounds seem to soften, the city murmurs mellowing into a nighttime hush. I make myself a simple meal in the kitchenette, just bread, cheese, and some local olives I picked up near the station. Eating slowly by the window, I watch the city across the water settle into evening. There's no need for music or distraction. The view itself is company enough, providing a constant source of quiet fascination. The apartment feels safe, a tranquil haven removed from the bustle, yet still connected to the lifeblood of the city through the ever-present river. A feeling of contentment washes over me, a simple gratitude for this moment, this view, this peace. Before preparing for sleep, I stand at the window one last time. The night air is cool and soft. The view of Porto is magical, a cascade of lights reflected in the dark water. The rhythmic pulse of the city feels gentler now. I can hear the distant, melancholic strains of a fado song drifting faintly from somewhere across the river, a sound that speaks of longing and soulfulness. It's a perfect, subtle soundtrack to the scene. Closing the window, I draw the simple curtain, enclosing myself in the quiet darkness of the room. The gentle sounds of the river and the city linger softly in my mind as I drift toward sleep, feeling anchored and at peace in this room with its captivating river view. Chapter 4. Ribera's Morning Light. The morning arrives softly in Porto, not with a jolt, but with a gradual lightening of the sky, a slow reveal. I wake early naturally, the habit of quiet observation extending even to the start of the day. From my window in Gaia, I watch the first pale rays of sun touch the highest points of the Ribera district across the river, painting the terracotta roofs in soft shades of pink and gold. The air holds a distinct morning freshness, cool and clean, carrying the promise of a new day. After a simple breakfast of bread and coffee, I feel the gentle pull to cross the river and explore Porto's famous waterfront before the crowds gather. Crossing the lower level of the Dom Luis Juan Bridge on foot is an experience in itself. The solid iron structure feels immense beneath my feet. Looking down, the Douro flows powerfully, its surface ruffled by a gentle breeze. Gulls wheel and cry overhead, their calls echoing in the relatively quiet morning air. Reaching the Porto side, I step onto the Calles de Ribera. The cobblestones are still damp from the night air, gleaming slightly in the low sunlight. The narrow, colorful buildings rise steeply beside me, their facades a captivating patchwork of tile, peeling paint, and intricate wrought iron balconies overflowing with potted plants. At this early hour, the Ribera has a hushed, expectant atmosphere. Cafe owners are methodically setting out tables and chairs, their movements unhurried. A lone fisherman cast his line into the river, his silhouette stark against the brightening water. The air smells of damp stone, brewing coffee, and the faint, salty tang of the river. I walk slowly along the promenade, my footsteps echoing softly between the tall buildings and the water's edge. My camera remains in my satchel for now. I prefer to simply absorb the scene first, to feel the place without the lens mediating the experience. The details are fascinating when observed without rush. I notice the textures of the ancient stone walls, worn smooth in places by time and touch. I admire the varied designs of the balconies, each one unique, some simple and functional, others ornate with scrolling ironwork. Small shrines are tucked into niches in the walls, adorned with faded artificial flowers. Laundry hangs from lines strung between windows overhead, adding splashes of domestic color to the scene. It feels like a place genuinely lived in, despite its status as a major attraction, the layers of history palpable in every stone and tile. I find a simple stone bench near the water's edge, positioned perfectly to look back toward the bridge and across to Gaia. Sitting here, I watch the light change, becoming brighter, stronger, chasing away the last vestiges of shadow from the narrow alleyways that lead up from the quay. The colors of the buildings intensify, the yellows becoming more golden, the blues deeper, the reds richer. Small boats bob gently on the water, tethered to stone posts. The steady flow of the Douro is a constant, calming presence, the heart of this scene. A few more people begin to appear, locals heading to work, perhaps walking briskly, other early risers like myself strolling slowly, taking photographs. The sounds gradually increase, but remain gentle. The clatter of cups as a cafe prepares for customers, the murmur of voices in Portuguese, the rhythmic splash of oars from a rowing boat gliding past on the river. It's a peaceful awakening, a city stretching and coming to life at its own pace. I feel no need to fill the silence, content to simply sit and observe, letting the atmosphere seep in. My gaze lingers on the intricate structure of the Dom Luís Bridge, designed by a disciple of Eiffel. Its arches and latticework stand out sharply against the soft blue morning sky. It feels both powerful and elegant, a vital connection that physically and symbolically links the two sides of the river, Porto and Gaia. Watching the occasional tram cross its upper level adds another layer of quiet movement to the scene. It's a view that encapsulates so much of Porto's character: the river, the historic architecture, the impressive engineering, all bathed in this beautiful morning light. After sitting for a while, feeling the coolness of the stone bench seep slightly through my trousers, I rise and continue my slow walk along the quay. The sun is higher now, warming the air. The first cafes are serving coffee, the aroma mingling invitingly with the river scents. I resist the urge to stop, wanting to hold on to this quiet solitude for a little longer. I reach the end of the main promenade, near the Praça da Ribeira Square, its ancient fountain still silent. Turning back, I retrace my steps, seeing everything from a slightly different angle, noticing details I missed before. This gentle exploration, bathed in the soft clarity of morning light, feels like the perfect introduction to the heart of old Porto. Chapter 5. Cerulean Dreams. Today, my intention is simply to wander, to let Porto reveal its details slowly, specifically seeking out the quiet beauty of its azulejo tiles. Beyond the grandeur of Sao Bento Station, these ceramic squares are woven into the very fabric of the city, appearing in expected and unexpected places, each telling a small story, capturing a fragment of light and color. I set out from my apartment in Gaia, crossing the bridge once more, but this time heading away from the immediate bustle of the Ribera, venturing into the quieter streets uphill. My steps are unhurried, my route unplanned. I allow myself to be guided by glimpses of blue and white catching my eye down a narrow side street, or the promise of an interesting facade glimpsed from afar. The city is built on hills, and walking here involves gentle climbs and descents, offering constantly shifting perspectives. The sunlight plays beautifully on the tiled surfaces, sometimes reflecting brightly, almost dazzlingly, other times revealing subtle variations in color and texture where the glaze has weathered over time. I find myself drawn towards the Igreja do Carmo and its neighbor, the Igreja dos Carmelitas. The side wall of the Carmo Church is a magnificent spectacle, a vast mural of blue and white tiles depicting scenes related to the founding of the Carmelite order. I stand across the narrow street, leaning against a cool stone wall, simply admiring the scale and artistry. Unlike the historical scenes at São Bento, these feel more overtly religious, yet the effect is similarly captivating. The sheer density of the tiles creates a shimmering, almost liquid surface that seems to ripple in the sunlight. But it's not just these grand displays that capture my attention. As I continue to wander through neighborhoods like Vitoria or Miragaia, I start noticing smaller, more intimate examples. A simple band of patterned tiles running beneath a windowsill, a floral motif adorning the entrance to a modest home, a faded shop sign, its lettering rendered in elegant blue ceramic. These smaller details feel just as significant, whispering of a long tradition, an ingrained aesthetic preference for this cool, clean ornamentation. They integrate art into the everyday, transforming simple walls into canvases. I take out my camera occasionally, not to capture the entirety of a building, but to focus on details, the precise geometry of a repeating pattern, the way a single crack runs through a tile, revealing the terracotta clay beneath, the subtle variations in the shade of blue used by different artisans or from different eras. Photography, for me, is another form of observation, a way to frame and appreciate these small moments of beauty. The weight of the camera in my hand is familiar, grounding, but I use it sparingly, ensuring it doesn't become a barrier between me and the direct experience. The quest for azulejos leads me down quiet residential streets, away from the main tourist paths. Here, the sounds of the city are different. The cheerful chatter of neighbors leaning out of windows, the distant chime of a church bell, the rattle of an old tram passing on a nearby street. I pass small grocery shops, bakeries releasing the warm scent of fresh bread, workshops where artisans might still be practicing traditional crafts. It feels like stepping into the gentle rhythm of Porto's daily life, observing it respectfully from the edge. Sometimes I find a particularly beautiful example almost hidden away, perhaps lining the entrance hall of an old apartment building, glimpsed through an open doorway, or decorating a small fountain in a quiet, overlooked square. These discoveries feel special, like finding a secret treasure. I linger in these spots, appreciating the artistry, imagining the time and skill involved in creating and installing these ceramic pieces. There's a coolness to the touch of the tiles, a smooth, enduring quality that speaks of resilience against the passage of time and weather. As the afternoon begins to wane, I find myself near the Capela das Almas, another famously tiled exterior, Its vibrant blue figures stand out dramatically against the white background, depicting scenes from the lives of saints. It's undeniably impressive, bustling with onlookers. But today, my heart remains with the quieter discoveries, the subtle bands of pattern on a simple house, the faded elegance of an old shop sign. These cerulean dreams, woven into the ordinary streets of Porto, feel like the city's quiet poetry, a testament to a love affair with blue and white ceramic, revealed one beautiful tile at a time. Chapter 6. Gaia's Slopin Street Cellar, Scents. Today, I decide to explore my temporary home base more thoroughly, Vila Nova de Gaia. While the stunning view of Porto is its most immediate offering, Gaia has its own distinct character, intrinsically linked to the world-famous port wine housed within its lodges. Instead of heading straight down to the bustling riverfront promenade with its restaurants and boat tours, I turn inland, beginning to climb the steep, narrow lanes that snake up the hillside behind the main row of cellars. The cobblestones here are uneven, worn smooth by centuries of footsteps and cartwheels. The streets twist and turn sharply, revealing unexpected glimpses of the Douro or the Porto skyline between the tall, whitewashed walls of the lodges. These buildings are immense, sturdy structures, often marked with names familiar from wine labels: Taylor's, Graham's, Sandeman, Callum. Their walls are thick stone, punctuated by cell-high windows, designed to keep the aging wine inside cool and protected from the light. There's a quiet solidity to this part of Gaia, a sense of industry, but one that operates at a slow, patient pace. As I walk, a distinct aroma begins to permeate the air, becoming more noticeable the higher I climb and the closer I get to the heart of the Cella district. It's a unique scent, sweet, slightly fruity, with undertones of old wood, damp earth, and alcohol. It's the smell of port wine aging in countless barrels, seeping subtly through the thick stone walls, hanging gently in the air. It's not overpowering, but rather a pervasive atmospheric perfume that speaks volumes about Gaia's identity. I pause, close my eyes, and simply inhale, letting the rich, complex scent fill my senses. The climb is gentle but steady. Occasionally, large wooden doors, tall enough to admit trucks or wagons, stand slightly ajar, offering glimpses into dimly lit interiors where rows upon rows of barrels might be resting in the cool darkness. I don't feel the need to take a tour today. My purpose is simply to absorb the atmosphere of the place, to feel its presence. The quiet here is different from the quiet of a park or a church. It's the quiet of slow transformation, a wine maturing patiently over years, even decades. There's a reverence in the air, a respect for the time-honored process unfolding behind these walls. Reaching a higher point, I discover a small, uncrowded Miradouro, a viewpoint tucked away, offering a spectacular panoramic vista. Below me, the terracotta roofs of the port lodges cascade down the slope towards the river. Beyond them, the Douro flows, spanned by the elegant Dom Luis Juan Bridge, and across the water, the colorful cityscape of Porto rises proudly. It's a breathtaking view, offering a clear perspective on the relationship between the two cities and the river that binds them. I find a stone bench, partly shaded by an olive tree, and sit for a while, simply gazing. From this vantage point, the sounds are different too. The immediate bustle of the Gaia riverfront is muted, replaced by the gentler sounds drifting up from the surrounding neighborhood, the distant chime of a bell, the voices of children playing in a hidden courtyard, the leaves of the olive tree rustling in the breeze. The air feels slightly cooler up here, carrying the scent of the wine cellars mingled with the dusty aroma of sun-baked stone and greenery. It's profoundly peaceful, a perfect spot for quiet contemplation. I take out my notebook, not necessarily to write extensively, but perhaps to sketch the curve of the river or the silhouette of the Porto skyline. The act of drawing helps me to see more clearly, to notice the shapes and lines, the interplay of light and shadow. Time seems to slow down here. There are no demands, no schedules to keep, just the sun warming the stone bench, the vast view unfolding before me, and the quiet presence of the aging wine sleeping in the cellars below. It's a moment of pure presence, appreciating the unique character of Gaia. Eventually, I begin my descent, taking a different, equally winding path back down towards the river. The scent of the cellars accompanies me part of the way, a reminder of the hidden world contained within those thick walls. Reaching the lower levels again, closer to the river, the atmosphere changes, becoming more lively. But the memory of the quiet climb, the panoramic view, and that unique, pervasive aroma remains with me. Exploring Gaia's sloping streets offered a different perspective, a deeper sense of the history and industry that quietly shapes this side of the gentle Douro. Chapter 7. Crystal Garden Stillness. Seeking a space of green tranquility within the urban landscape, I make my way today to the Jardin do Palacio de Cristal. The name itself suggests elegance and perhaps a certain fragility, though the original Crystal Palace that stood here is long gone. What remains is a series of interconnected gardens, perched high on a hill overlooking the Douro River, offering respite and beautiful views. Entering the gardens feels like stepping into a different world, quieter and more serene than the city streets below. The paths wind gently through diverse landscapes. There are formal sections with neatly clipped hedges and geometric flower beds bursting with seasonal color, vibrant reds, sunny yellows, deep purples. Then there are areas that feel wilder with groves of tall, mature trees offering dappled shade, their leaves rustling softly in the breeze. Water features appear unexpectedly, a small pond reflecting the sky, a trickling fountain providing a gentle, soothing soundtrack. The air here smells green and earthy, of damp soil, blooming flowers, and chlorophyll-rich leaves. One of the garden's most captivating features is its population of peacocks. They roam freely, often perched nonchalantly on stone walls or strutting slowly across the lawns, their iridescent blue-green plumage catching the sunlight. Their occasional sharp, distinctive cries punctuate the otherwise peaceful atmosphere. I watch one magnificent male displaying his tail feathers, a full shimmering fan of intricate eyes. There's a certain regal indifference about them, an air of owning the place, which I find rather endearing. They add an element of unexpected wildness and beauty to the cultivated landscape. I wander without a specific destination within the gardens, letting the paths guide me. I discover hidden corners, secluded benches tucked away beneath flowering shrubs, offering moments of privacy and quiet contemplation. From various points along the garden's edge, breathtaking views of the Douro River unfold, showing its wide curve as it heads towards the Atlantic. The Ponte da Arabida, a modern concrete arch bridge further downstream, is visible from here, contrasting with the historic ironwork of the Dom Luis I. Seeing the river from this elevated green perspective feels different, calmer, more expansive. I find a particularly peaceful spot on a simple wooden bench beneath the shade of a large leafy tree. The sun filters through the leaves, creating shifting patterns of light and shadow on the ground. From here, I can see a glimpse of the river, but mostly I am enveloped in the green stillness of the garden. I take out a small book I carry in my satchel, but I find myself reading only a few pages before setting it aside. It feels more engaging just to sit, to listen, to observe the quiet life around me. A gentle breeze stirs the leaves. The distant sound of the city is a low hum, almost imperceptible. Small birds flit between the branches overhead, their calls soft and melodic. An elderly couple strolls past, arm in arm, their conversation a low murmur. A gardener tends to a flower bed with quiet concentration. There's a sense of gentle activity, but the overarching atmosphere is one of profound peace. It's a place where time seems to slow down, inviting reflection. My thoughts wander freely, touching on the simple beauty of nature, the calming effect of green spaces, the quiet joy of finding such an oasis within a bustling city. I spend a considerable time just sitting on that bench, feeling the warmth of the dappled sunlight on my skin, listening to the subtle sounds of the garden. There's a restorative quality to this stillness, a chance to recharge away from the stimulation of the streets. The peacocks wander nearby, occasionally letting out their calls, but mostly moving with a quiet grace that complements the serene environment. I feel my own breathing deepen, my shoulders relax further. This connection with nature, however cultivated, feels essential, grounding. Eventually, feeling refreshed and centered, I slowly rise and begin to walk towards the exit. I take a different path, discovering yet more quiet corners and beautiful plantings. The memory of the crystal garden stillness stays with me. As I re-enter the city streets, the scent of flowers, the rustling leaves, the quiet dignity of the peacocks, and the profound sense of peace found beneath the shade of its trees. It was a necessary pause, a reminder of the tranquility that can be found when one simply stops and observes the natural world, even within the heart of a city. Chapter 8. River's Gentle Pulse. Today my focus returns entirely to the river, the gentle Douro that gives this journey its name and Porto its lifeblood. I decide to spend the day simply observing its presence, its moods, its constant quiet pulse. I start by sitting on a weathered stone bench on the Vila Nova de Gaia embankment, not far from my apartment. The morning sun warms the stone, and the river flows steadily before me, its surface reflecting the deepening blue sky and the colorful facades of the Ribeira opposite. From this perspective, I watch the various boats that ply the river. There are the sleek, modern river cruise boats carrying sightseers, their engines a low thrum. But my eyes are drawn more to the few traditional Rabelo boats moored along the quays. These unique vessels, with their long steering oars and flat bottoms, were once used to transport barrels of port wine downriver from the vineyards. Though mostly used for tourism now, their distinctive shape speaks of a rich history, a direct link to the river's working past. They float silently, their dark wood contrasting with the bright water, like patient storytellers resting between tales. The play of light on the water is mesmerizing. As the sun climbs higher, the surface shimmers, sometimes sparkling like scattered diamonds, where the breeze catches it, other times offering clear, glassy reflections of the buildings and the bridge. Small ripples spread outwards from passing boats, distorting the reflections momentarily before the surface settles back into placid calm. Watching these ever-changing patterns is almost meditative, a visual representation of the river's constant, subtle movement. The sounds are predominantly river sounds. The gentle lapping of water against the stone walls, the cries of gulls circling overhead, the distant horn of a larger vessel further downstream. Around midday, I seek out a small, unassuming tasca I noticed tucked away on a side street near the Gaia riverfront. It's simple, traditional, filled mostly with locals enjoying their lunch. I find a small table and order grilled sardines, a Porto classic, served simply with boiled potatoes and a drizzle of olive oil. The fish is incredibly fresh, tasting of the nearby sea, its salty, smoky flavor perfectly complemented by the earthy potatoes. Eating slowly, absorbing the convivial atmosphere of the tasca, the clatter of cutlery, the rapid musical cadence of Portuguese conversation feels like another way of connecting with the pulse of the place, experiencing its simple, authentic flavors. Later in the afternoon, I find myself sitting on a bench near the Ponte da Arabida, further downstream where the river feels wider, closer to the sea. The air here carries a more pronounced, salty tang. Fewer tourist boats venture this far. The river feels more industrial, yet still holds a certain quiet majesty. I watch the slow progress of a container ship heading out toward the Atlantic, a modern contrast to the historic Rabelos. The scale of the river seems grander here, its connection to the vast ocean more apparent. As evening approaches, I return to the area near the Dom Luis Juan Bridge. I find a quiet spot on the Ribera side this time, sitting on the stone steps leading down to the water. The setting sun cast a warm golden glow over everything, illuminating the Gaia hillside and reflecting brilliantly on the river surface. The atmosphere softens. The sounds become more mellow. From an open window somewhere above the Cais da Ribera, the faint, soulful strains of a fado song begin to drift out. A single guitar accompanies a mournful yet beautiful voice. The music seems to capture the very essence of Portuguese saudade, that unique blend of longing, melancholy, and gentle beauty. Listening to the fado, watching the light fade over the Douro, I feel a deep sense of connection to the river. It's more than just a body of water. It's the city's soul, its history, its constant companion. Its gentle pulse has shaped the landscape, the culture, the very identity of Porto. The simple meal, the observation of the boats, the changing light, the unexpected gift of the music, all these moments have woven together to create a profound appreciation for the gentle Douro. The river continues its quiet journey towards the sea as darkness settles completely. Lights twinkle on both banks, their reflections dancing on the water. The fado song finishes, leaving a lingering echo in the soft night air. I sit for a few moments longer in the peaceful darkness, listening to the soft murmur of the water, feeling the steady ancient pulse of the river that has cradled this city for centuries. It feels like a fitting end to a day spent simply honoring its presence. Chapter 9, Golden Hour, Oval Porto. The time has come to prepare for departure, but not before one last immersion in the beauty of Porto. I feel drawn to witness the city during the golden hour, that magical time just before sunset, when the light takes on a warm, almost ethereal quality. I choose a familiar vantage point, the Miradoro de Serra do Pilar, situated beside the monastery on the Gaia side, offering perhaps the most iconic panorama of Porto, especially as the day draws to a close. The climb up to the viewpoint is gentle, and as I ascend, the view begins to open up. Reaching the wide terrace, the scene unfolds dramatically. The entire historic center of Porto lies spread out before me, bathed in the most exquisite golden light. The low-angled sun illuminates the western-facing facades of the Ribeira buildings, making their colors glow with an intense warmth. The terracotta roofs seem almost luminous, and the intricate ironwork of the Dom Luis First Bridge stands silhouetted against the brightening colors of the western sky. I find a spot near the edge of the terrace, leaning lightly against the stone balustrade. The air is soft and still, carrying the muted sounds of the city below the distant rumble of traffic, the faint chime of bells, the murmur of voices from other onlookers sharing this moment. The Douro River flows through the heart of the scene, its surface transformed into a ribbon of molten gold, reflecting the sky's fiery hues. Small boats leave shimmering wakes as they make their final crossings of the day. There's a shared sense of quiet reverence among the people gathered here. Conversations are hushed, movements are slow. Everyone seems captivated by the spectacle unfolding before them. I feel a sense of connection, not through words, but through this shared appreciation of beauty. My camera remains in my satchel. This moment feels too profound, too ephemeral to be captured through a lens. It asks simply to be witnessed, to be felt. I reflect on my time here in this city cradled by its gentle river. Images and sensations drift through my mind. The stunning blue azulejos of São Bento Station, the cool dampness of the morning air along the Ribeira, the unique sweet scent hanging around the port wine cellars, the quiet stillness of Crystal Gardens, the simple pleasure of grilled sardines tasted by the river, the soulful echo of fado in the evening air. Each memory is bathed in the gentle atmosphere that seems characteristic of Porto, a blend of vibrancy and history, resilience, and a quiet melancholy. The sun sinks lower, touching the horizon. The colors in the sky intensify: brilliant oranges, soft pinks, deep reds painting the clouds in dramatic strokes. The light on the city softens, the shadows lengthen, bringing out the textures of the old buildings. The golden glow begins to fade, replaced by the softer mauves and blues of twilight. Lights start to appear across Porto, pinpricks of warmth emerging in the dusk. The transformation is slow, graceful, breathtaking. Staying until the last colors fade from the sky, I feel a sense of peaceful closure. This final beautiful spectacle feels like a fitting farewell from Porto. Turning away from the view, I begin the slow walk back down towards my apartment. The streets of Gaia are quieter now, the night air cool. Back in my room, the view across the river reveals Porto illuminated, a cascade of lights reflected in the dark, smooth surface of the Douro. I pack my satchel slowly, mindfully. Each item folded and placed feels like acknowledging the end of this chapter. The notebook filled with all observations, the camera holding digital memories, the small tokens collected along the way. It's a familiar ritual, tinged with the gentle sadness of departure, but also with gratitude for the experiences gathered. Taking one last long look from my window at the glittering city across the water, I imprint the image in my memory: Porto, held softly by its gentle river, glowing in the night. Chapter 10. Leaving the Gentle River. The morning of departure arrives with the same gentle softness that seems characteristic of Porto. There's no rush, no frantic energy. I enjoy a final, simple breakfast by the window, watching the early light touch the Ribera buildings across the Douro one last time. The sounds are familiar now, the gulls, the distant hum of the awakening city, the soft murmur of the river itself. Packing the last few items into my satchel, I take a final look around the small apartment that has been my peaceful sanctuary, feeling a quiet sense of gratitude for its shelter and its view. Instead of São Bento, my journey continues from Campania Station today, Porto's main railway hub, slightly further out from the historic center. The short taxi ride takes me through different streets, offering final glimpses of Porto life, busy intersections, local shops opening, people heading to work. Campana Station is larger, more modern than São Bento, bustling with a different kind of energy, the energy of longer journeys beginning and ending. Yet, there's still an underlying Portuguese calmness, an absence of sharp edges. Finding my platform, I see the wanderer waiting patiently, its familiar forest green carriage a comforting sight. The brass nameplate gleams softly. Stepping aboard feels like coming home, the scent of polished wood and old leather instantly familiar and reassuring. I settle into my usual armchair, placing my satchel beside me. Through the large window, I watch the platform activity, passengers boarding other trains, station staff moving with quiet efficiency, farewells being exchanged. With a soft hiss and a gentle jolt, the wanderer begins to move. Slowly at first, then gathering speed, we pull away from the platform, leaving Campania Station behind. The urban landscape of Porto slides past the window residential buildings, small industrial areas, glimpses of colorful tiled walls even out here. Soon, the city gives way to its outskirts, and then, gradually, to the familiar Portuguese countryside. The transition is smooth, seamless. I watch the landscape change, the Douro Valley receding behind us. The vineyards and steep hills are replaced by gentler slopes, fields, and forests. The quality of the light remains soft, the sky a pale blue. I open my notebook, not to write immediately, but simply to look at the pages filled during my time in Porto, sketches of azulejo patterns, notes on the scent of the port cellars, reflections captured during quiet moments in the gardens or by the river. Leafing through them is like revisiting the journey in miniature. I pick up my camera and scroll through the photos. There's the intricate tilework of São Bento, the colorful chaos of the Ribera houses bathed in morning light, the panoramic view from the Miradouro da Serra do Pilar during the golden hour, a close-up of a peacock's feather from the Crystal Gardens. Each image evokes a feeling, a sensory memory. I linger on a shot capturing the light dancing on the Douro's surface, the gentle pulse of the river captured in a single frame. The steady rhythm of the train takes over, the familiar clickety-clack, a soothing background sound. It's the sound of continuation of the journey unfolding. Porto and its gentle river are now behind me, held as memory, as experience. But the essence of the place, its quiet beauty, its blend of history and everyday life, the constant presence of the Douro travels with me, absorbed into my own inner landscape. I feel a sense of quiet satisfaction, of time well spent exploring the subtle charms of the city. Leaning my head back against the comfortable upholstery, I close my eyes for a moment, simply listening to the sound of the train. The journey stretches ahead, destination unknown for now, but that uncertainty holds no anxiety, only a gentle curiosity. For now, there is just the comfort of my moving home, the memory of the gentle duro carried within, and the steady, peaceful rhythm of the wheels carrying me onward. The slow journey continues.